And hello everyone, welcome to the Trekyards Mission Briefing, your weekly Wednesday, because it's Wednesday, dose of Star Trek goodness. We can look at anything, kind of a chill discussion, first look, review, some even say, theorization session, and you know, a thing where we ask you guys what you think, and you put comments below, and maybe we do the full episode of the ship, we take all that stuff into account, and if you design the ship, sometimes you even say hi, we've had that multiple times, and hello if you design this ship. This is for you guys, a first look. Stuart, I would say what we're doing today, but I know what we're doing today, so I'll say hello and how you doing today, Stuart?
I'm doing really well, really well. And yourself, Commander?
Pretty good, but we're going to look at Enterprise, Stuart. Your favourite topic of discussion. Enterprise is maybe.
One of them, yes, yes. And this one is not that bad, considering.
Good. Well, I'll first out say this is a design by John Hurd, and it is based on an unused concept from 2009. So he managed to turn that into reality, tweaked it, did his own thing, and we're going to look at it and review it in this form and also compare it to that picture. But Stuart, first reaction, have you seen this design before, or at least this version of this design, and what do you think?
I haven't seen the specific one. I have seen, I think, the concept art this was based on, which is some of the Ryan Church early stuff. And I think it's great, actually. I mean, it's fixed a lot of my issues with the ship, so.
Okay.
Should I go into detail, or should I wait for your first impression of the ship?
I'll jump in there then. Wow, succinct. I like this a lot. It's a lot more silvery than I think I'm accustomed to. It has more of a metal sort of built vibe. You know, part of having the creamy hull of the Connie is that it's sort of more organic, more porcelain, as Doug says. This has a more silvery vibe, so it feels more constructive, which is obviously more what I guess they were going for in 09. But I dig it. The proportions are about right. There's a lot of different stylistic things, but very clearly what it is. And it does look more advanced than the Constitution class, but not in necessarily technological ways, apart from the Deflector, say, but just more modern, we can get away with detail advanced.
Which is what they should have done for the one in the movie. Just an updated, modernized version of it, not a bastardized version of it. One of the first things...
It's not far off, though, Stuart. It's not far off. That's the problem.
One of the first things I notice and like about this is the fact that the colors, well, aside from the hull color, which I actually really enjoy, are correct-ish. I mean, you got like a orange Bizarre collector, which is fine. That's what you need on a Star Trek ship, or a Starfleet vessel anyway, instead of blue. That's one of the first things that, even on the Ryan Church Enterprise, that one small change would have meant so much, in my opinion.
That's why it's so nice that Franklin kept up that and was orange. You know, such a smallish detail, but important in our grand scheme of the universe.
Mm-hmm. Also, the way that neck looks from the front here looks very like a knife, like it could slice through, space. Not that you have to, but the engines are they're not as bulky. They're much more narrow, which holds true to the TOS look. So immediately those few things just really speak to me and really say this is a much better version of that ship, which it could have been much better.
Yeah, if this was the one we'd seen, I would have been like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yep,
it wouldn't have fitted in canon, really. Although it's not far off. I mean, with the Kelvin incident, all you're really saying is they, rather than having spinning bizarre tech, they use more of a stellar matter light like they do in TNG, but a bit more bright like TOS. And the Deflector is a very nice combination. You've got the bronzy, it looks like already bronze with a center point with then little glow elements back. It's a very NX TOS combination. And sort of has a simplicity to it, which feels advanced but reflects the classic. So yeah, if this had been the one we'd seen, it would have been a really cool alternate design. Now having seen the JJ Prize up close, and it really feels like the Enterprise refit. With the way it's coloured, it's got that exact vibe, just with some out of proportion elements. This has more of a unique feel because the colouring, it has more of its own personality, and because it's proportioned better, and dare I say correctly, it works better as a ship.
I'll agree with all that.
There we go.
But you want to move on to the next picture now?
Absolutely. Oof.
here we go from the side and back. This, right away, as soon as I see this, one of the things I immediately think of is the IDW comic series based on the Kelvin verse, because you see the Enterprise so often drawn in that, and it looks good. The JJ Enterprise looks good in the comics, and I think it's just the way it's drawn. They've slendered things down a little bit. This looks exactly like one of the shots from the comic book, and it works for me. It works for me 100%.
There's a lot of little things in this. This shows the alterations and how radical it is, and clearly they've gone the JJ universe style route. I mean, obviously it's meant to be based on those concepts, which makes sense. Mm-hmm. But let's go one thing at a time. So what you point out something you really notice, and we can go back and forth on little details, because there's so much here to discuss.
Well, this ties in with what I just said about the last picture too. The engine sizing is much more appropriate for what we are used to and what we should have had, I think. Not as big and bulky at the front and very slender at the back. This is much more of the taper is much more subtle on this and much more acceptable to me. And just the overall size works perfectly. So let's start with the engines, I guess.
Well, it has more of a Star Trek Beyond feel, but a bit more conventional. Although I'm intrigued, I like the end tips. They're a bit odd, but I like them. That keeps very much in tune with what the JJ did in terms of the sort of the shape of the outside bit. The inside's its own thing. But I like how it's got this bit below it that is a detail. Don't know what it is, but it bulks out a smidge, but not very much. And you can also see it has those lines of lights like the JJ Price has, but they're very subtle, apart from the lens flares. And they're in there, but they're not really there. They're not trying to make a statement. They're just there. There's a function as to the form rather than look at me. Your thing.
Okay. So let's move. Exactly. Well, let's move down now from those and the struts on this. The struts, I absolutely love. They're not the banana struts like we got in the refit version of the JJ verse before the A, and they're very subtle. I love the coloration. It's very it ties in with the refit Enterprise. And I have no problems with them at all. They're not curved like this per se, they're not like very noticeable. It's much more subtle. Again, subtlety. It's all the JJ Prize needs is subtlety, and not so many slaps in the face.
Yeah, these feel so natural. I wasn't going to talk about them, which is a good thing. That's a compliment, Yeah. Yeah. My next thing, and this I think is one of the bigger changes in terms of purpose. I think I'm going is the 1 and 2 docking bays in the sides of the secondary hull, and we know where that's from. That's from the Reliant, which has at the aft it has those 2 bays, 1 and 2. What do you think?
Well, this also has a 3 and 4 on the other side. Just so we'll see those in a minute. But that is a change that I find acceptable. I mean, if you're loading cargo and stuff on, you don't necessarily want to use your main shuttle bay. So those seem more like something that a work bee with one of the trains behind it would back into, unload the cargo and take off. I kind of like that addition to the secondary hull. It's, again, if this was seen on screen in 2009, everybody would bitch and whine about it.
Yes.
However, I don't really have much of a problem with it. Everybody would say, why is the ship numbered 12? No. It's Bay 1 and 2. But anyway.
I think it's not pretty, but it's functional. And I think you could probably mitigate the damage, quote unquote, to the look of the ship is by having the doors be the exact same colour as the hull, making the 1 and 2 slightly less dark. And then when they're in use, those lights on the corners, they activate, brighten up, so it feels very different. Then they move. So it's subtle and not subtle. Like, I mean, if you think about how the ship is in use, 99% of the time these won't be used in a mission. But it's when you're at space dock, that's when they'll be used, or a really heavy, transport mission for shuttles. So having them be less obvious, I think, would be absolutely fine functionally, and probably keep the aesthetic a little bit more intact. But I like the idea.
Yeah.
It's just not pretty. But that's not a reason for it to not be there.
I agree, and I think it's something that, as you said, if they had even sliding doors that came down so the hull looked exactly the same,
Yeah.
and then when they're at space dock, those go up to reveal door 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I would be very happy with that. Or even have the 1 and 2 be much more subtle, maybe a pearlescent, so you see it in certain light.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't even have a problem with it being bold like this, to be honest. I think that's kind of a cool addition to the Enterprise. The fact that it's still got the Starfleet banner and pennant on the side that's lit, also something that should have been there all along, because it really ties in with what we're used to. And the JJ Prize is lacking that. Subtle things make a huge difference, guys. Just saying.
It's all just respect to the subject matter.
Yes.
You know, or lack thereof. You know. No, I mean, to have the idea of it being a full through deck, you know, through deck to the side, and then through deck into the shuttle. I mean, that's a lot of functionality there. I like that it has all the tech below the shuttle bay, you know, that cutout like the JJ Prize has. Totally fine with that. All other variations have. Totally fine with that.
Also, the secondary hull shape here is much more, again, subtle, much more similar to the refit than the JJ Prize that we got, which is very much big at the front and then boom, a drastic change to the back.
This, I mean, we just looked at, or we have / will have / have already looked at Belknap. Timing of these things coming out. They've shrunk in every respect. This, I know its angles changed the view, but I think it's slightly more stout and slightly more like shorter, but everything's more smoothly together, which in fact makes the whole ship feel more powerful, I think, because you've got a lot more bang in the buck of the smaller secondary hull. But it's a very small, if it is there, it's a very small reduction in size. It's not like now we've got a huge saucer or now we've got a huge secondary hull. It's like a very small thing, but gives it a slight different feel, and sometimes feel is very important. Yeah.
3 more things I just want to touch on really quickly because they're small things before we move on to the next picture. The impulse deck, the impulse engines are the proper size for this hull, the second
Perfect.
or this primary hull. I mean, they don't get super huge like they did at the end of Into Darkness.
And then they
was
get removed
silly.
straight away.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the impulse engines on the original JJ Prize, but then they got bigger.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then on the rim of the saucer, you got the extra cargo bay door there, which is on the refit.
Yes.
In case you guys are wondering, because a lot of you will say that it's a huge difference, but it's not. It's on the refit. Just not quite as prominent as that.
Yeah.
Which I have no problem with that. It's a great addition, a nice tie-in with the refit.
It makes every time you add detail, it feels more functional.
Yeah.
You know? It's just how you use it, really.
Yeah. And lastly, the lower planetary sensor dome on the saucer. That bright blue is really what said the comics to me, because there's this is almost identical to one of the pictures I've seen in the comics, and I'm like, that ship looks good. Why is that not what's on screen? But here it is, represented, and that bright blue is what really tied it in for me. So I just wanted to make that the last thing to point out here.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm not sure why it's that way, but hey, give me a reason and it'll be fine. For me, yeah, cool little things. There's a lot of color differentiation. Little strips of light. There's on the edge of the rim of the saucer. There's 2 lines. There's more blinkies, but those are actually either on the refit, I think, or on the D. There are also ones at the edge of the saucer at the back part. They've got new ones here. This is a bigger ship than the JJ Prize, because you can see the rim has it's 3 decks big, or at least 2. I think the refit is only 1 deck, isn't it? Or is it 2 decks?
No, the refit is 2.
Okay, so it might be about the same.
Yep.
But it feels a little bit bigger.
It
Feels a little bit bigger than this one, but not by a lot. Okay, yeah, that's all I had then. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm not. Everything I'm seeing that I don't like, quote unquote, is both minimal and sort of hard to quantify. Really, it's more like they're pushing in a direction. As long as they aren't the direction, or call it a reboot. It's like, well, okay, they're just the new elements. This treads that line really well. Really, really well.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next picture then. This one is interesting. This is very reminiscent of the Ryan Church Enterprise. I love the neck, how the neck actually extends back farther like that. I've always kind of liked that on the JJ Prize. I don't have a problem with that so much. One thing I find really interesting is the nacelles on this. It's almost like the top shroud above the Bizarre Collector's moved forward right now. It's almost like that moves backwards and forwards because it looks like it's more forward now, which would be kind of cool. It looks like there's even a track there for it along the side of the engine.
A little bit, yeah.
So again, that's an addition that I don't mind so much, especially since the Bizarres are the right color.
It's all about the colour. For Bizarres, it's all about the... Yeah. I don't know. For me, I think we've sort of... You can sort of see from my early pictures, the neck, it actually sort of has it goes into a point.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like the dimensionality. They've got that, goes into the point, and then the secondary other layer of hull, it's just gives a bit of depth, a bit of something. I dig it. I do. I also like you've got, though, I mean, I'm guessing, but it seems very likely those 3 escape pod hatches above the pennant.
Yeah, it could be. Or possible warp core ejection hatches. Shoot them out the side.
Yeah.
Because we know there's like 28 warp cores on the JJ Prize, so...
The original, anyway, they fix that later on. The one thing I don't like about this view is the deflector. It sticks out in a weird way. I feel like it should be really integrated and clever, but it's very rudimentary here in terms of the shapes and like.
It's also very dark though. It's hard to see what's going on there exactly. But I will disagree with you there. I like the deflector the way it is there. Very old school TOS style, sticking out the way it is. But integrating them is fine as well, and you can do that properly and make it look good. So
the next view is a side view. And yeah, that cowling, that's really feels as if it's been pushed forward. I think it is the same as the first shot, we just didn't get the right perspective. But yeah, looks a lot like a Geth. No, not a Geth. A Geth, like Legion from Mass Effect. The line of it almost looks as if there's that internal line grill on from like the Excelsior and such, which is an interesting visual tie-in. I think I like it. I think I do. I'm not sure.
You think you like it? I don't mind it at all. I like it. So there you go.
Anything else you see from this picture, Stuart?
No. Here you can see those ports a little bit better, and they could be escape pods, but then I'm wondering where the rest are because.
Yeah.
With those being so noticeable, they must have some other function. And I'm thinking that might be related to the engineering somehow. Personally.
Very possibly. Yeah. Very, very possibly.
Other than that, nothing I can see here. I love the 2 sensor bands on the saucer rim. Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's a neat ship. It's I like self-illumination. Obviously, works really well. Yeah, it works.
All right, so next picture. This is a great shot. There's one issue I see immediately that I just want to scream and rip my hair out and run and smash my face into a wall.
That's very dramatic, Stuart.
It is.
Scream and shout. I mean,
that's
what
what
could
happens
possibly be?
That's what happens when you put 3 huge windows on a Federation ship when we've never had that before. And everybody's like, oh my god, you don't like windows? But in this episode you said you'd like windows. It makes sense. It's a beautiful idea. Have overlays on the computer screens, but not for a Federation starship. No.
But Stuart, the Cage had one.
No, it didn't. That black square on the outside is actually just a sensor palette.
Which they then took away in the remastered series with the CG anyway, so it becomes
so that people wouldn't say that in the future because people won't watch the older stuff.
Yeah,
because people can be easily brainwashed.
In 10 years, people will not even know there was I don't know. Yeah, this view is very, very JJ in terms of it's a shot they've used before, and I've seen multiple Enterprises because it's the way they've looks to me as if it's a high focal length shot, so everything pushes together. But the orange works really well. It pops against the blue. The red of the deflector is a bit odd. I think I buy it, but it's a bit strange.
Yeah.
I don't see the problem with this sort of window formation. Besides, it's a window. Is that and I know this is it from the concept art, which we'll talk about in a minute. So it is literally just their original design. I know it fits with the smoother curves of the entire ship to have smoother curves, but it makes the whole bridge feel like one big like restaurant sized room with these big windows that you just look. I was like, oh look, there's a Klingon ship firing a torpedo at us. Oh, that's nice.
Here, let's
It's
enjoy
like-
our pasta.
Yeah, it doesn't. Those shapes don't work with that. If you can have a window, having the rectangle's fine. It for some reason having organic shapes there doesn't work.
I'm actually going to disagree with you there. I kind of like the way these windows are structured. I think it adds to the Art Deco look of the entire ship.
Well, that it does to a T. I absolutely agree with that.
One thing I really appreciate about this shot, which is one thing that really bothers me about the JJ Prize, is those engines are the right size and they're correctly, spaced apart. They're not too close and they're not too big.
Wonderful.
So this makes this ship look spot on for me. I would have been so happy seeing this on screen.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably look at final thoughts. I basically agree, but I will say one more thing about the design is that if you look at the secondary hull, there are lights almost around the entire ring of the deflector, and it's a few more lights that let it pop out. Although I will say the navigational dome is blue, is yellow here, rather than bright blue. So I guess it does change depending on the mood.
Well, it's a planetary sensor. It has different functions, right? So
Absolutely. But I like how many lights this thing has, and they pop in different ways. And I do like the secondary hull, just the way it looks. It has some depth. It has some. Again, there are greeblies and there are things, but this has a nice sort of flow to it. But Stuart, the last picture, this is from a video that they actually made about this. This was the original concept. It's a new design from 2009. Clearly the inspiration. Yeah, what do you think? Well, I think we'll probably end up doing a full episode on the concept of these other enterprises at some point.
Yeah.
But in context of this ship, what do you think?
Okay, this. Oh yeah, I don't want to separate it into concept because this I love almost everything about this. The curve on the stretch is maybe a bit much, but it works here, so I can't really complain about that. Everything else looks cool. I love the front of the neck on this, like the torpedo tube or whatever that is, the way they incorporated that. And the fact that TOS deflector is very much a TOS deflector, but yet not. It's very modernized and integrated into the hull. So yeah, they did a fantastic job of converting this to that model we were just looking at. I like this a lot. Again, this on screen would have been perfectly fine with.
I do think they've improved the design. Removing the turbines from the nacelles and making them just glowing bits with plasma definitely improved. I think I like the deflector better, though I would have preferred the gold, the brownie gold to the red. You can really see the bridge window here, and again, it just looks like, just screams cathedral.
It's like something out of the
window.
Jetsons there.
Yes, it gives it a certain feel that I don't think the ship needs or wants. Not in a bad way, just Yeah, but I'm glad that we knew this was from this concept. But I do think if we go to the next picture, the last picture, the first picture, I think they've improved upon the design. If you took out the window, it'd be even better. Small change. And my closing thoughts are that if this had been the ship that appeared in 2009, you would have known that it was a true reboot, a true parallel timeline with its own development, its own way. Everything's in proportion, so it makes sense, but it's its own style. And I would have been very intrigued, and honestly, I think the beauty shots they could have done with this, I mean, the conning is good from almost every angle. This, I think, would also look good from almost every angle, and that would have given them more options with the CG. And I really think if this had been this version of this, I think 30%, 40% of fans would have been more on board with the JJ verse, the Enterprise.
Easily. This one holds true to the golden ratio of the dimensions and the spacing of things, which worked really well in the Constitution class ship. I can see, and again, if this would have been on screen in 2009, I would have been very, very much happier, as is, with the colors correct, certain things that are much more subtle and not so in your face as what they did with the JJ Prize. I can see that there would be people still bitching and complaining about some of the stuff on this because of the changes, especially to those doors on the side. The window and the bridge would always be a problem. Again, like you said, it's something that's designed that doesn't necessarily want. It's almost like it refuses to accept the design, but they forced it on it with the windows. So overall, I love this. I think it's fantastic. I want a model of this. I would love to see this redo the 2009 movie with new effects.
I was about to say, we know this is a 3D model. I would love to, hopefully the designer, hopefully you watch this and would love to work with us on doing Trekyards original, where you can flesh it out, because with every new ship that has slightly new functions and such, and it'd be so cool to see this ship in some of these scenes redone from '09. Obviously, it's quite difficult to pull that away from other things, but this would have been a really conceptually. Let's make it happen, guys. I want to see it. And I do think, though, one last note from me is that the silverness, it does make it feel like linking to Enterprise more. It has more of a modern day feel. I think the abstract nature of some of the elements of the Constitution class, that it's so simple, that you're wondering, well, how does this work? On this one, it's got those more, okay, well, there are lit up bits in the Deflector, like the Enterprise. It's got a big glowing bright orange. I don't know. There's just things that link to modern day tech, or at least the Enterprise tech a little more. Super subtle, but I think the line of tech would work better with this in place, sort of. But I think if they were going for that, or to be fair, if this was in Discovery, this is an NX-01 Connie.
Yeah.
That's slightly rebooted. So hopefully they bought this model and using it for Discovery. There you go.
I highly doubt that, but
yes.
So overall, I think we like this ship.
Yes.
I do, certainly. Hopefully you guys did, and if you did like the ship, hopefully you liked the episode as well. If you did, please click that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for all the Trekyards goodness, and Fleet Yards as well. And click the notification icon so you don't miss anything. Very important. Yes.
Yeah, jinx.
Hey, you owe me a beer.
No.
But
if you want to support the show directly and help us not only keep the show coming to you every single week, but
and to get him money to buy me a beer, because he owes me a beer. Jinx. Continue.
Then there are a couple of ways of doing that, everybody. You can support us on Patreon, which is a monthly donation scheme, kind of like a Netflix or a Hulu, but the money goes directly to us, help keep these lights on, these cameras running, these microphones powered. That was loud. All the things that we need to keep the show coming to you every week, and most days, because we put a lot of time and effort into not only being a show, a channel, a community for you guys. So if you want to support that, $2 a month, $3 a month, a single buck, $10 a month, nothing. But if 100 of you give 100, if 100 of you give 10, it means so much to us. So please do, if you can. Or a one-time donation at trekyards.com. Think of it as like a tip, or a thank you for a great episode, or for great renders, or whatnot. Give it trekyards.com and click that donate button. Thank you in advance.
Absolutely. And don't forget to share the video around to everyone you think might enjoy it, because not everybody knows about Trekyards, and they should, I guess. So spread the word.
Yes.
But until next time, guys, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Coggins.
And we'll see you guys in the future. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.